Hey, this is Future Marc here, and before we get started, I should probably let you know that Gabe and I recorded this video a little over a week ago, and after we recorded it, I went on vacation, and of course, the day I get back, it's announced that the movie gets delayed. So the reason why we don't reference the delay in this video is because we didn't know it was going to happen by the time we recorded it, and because of that, the delay is going to be the focus of the next episode. So stay tuned for that. Also, since this is the last video I'm going to be making for April, I want to give a shout out to my superstar supporters, Red Rack, Henry Newman, Rachel Rodriguez, and Jake Winans. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to do what I do, so thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Really means a lot to me. But enough about that, let's get on with the video. Hi everybody, welcome back to Mario Movie News, or Mario Movie Updates. Now this is going to be interesting because this is the start of an ongoing saga related to breaking down the information that we've been able to uncover in various 4chan threads that we've come across. And there's so much information in these threads that there's just too much of it to cover in one video. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to split up the 4chan breakdown into multiple videos and divide them into topics. So we're going to do an episode about the plot and other behind the scenes stuff or whatever, but this episode is going to be about additional voice actors that may or may not be part of this. I went ahead and compared the information that we got from each thread and tried to add it up to see which ones seem the most plausible and which ones don't. There are a few that seem questionable, but some seem kind of valid, so that's what we're going to get into today. But before that, we also have a couple of leaks related to merchandise, specifically toys, action figures, and playsets. And a lot of this information comes courtesy of Illumination Facts on Twitter, so thanks to them. These are apparently real Amazon listings from the Canadian website, but these were all taken down. So the only reason why we know about this is because Illumination Facts, thankfully, was able to get screenshots before they were taken down. I have the tweets up on my end, and I'm sure you have them up on your end, so why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Alright, so the first of these merch leaks, we got the Super Mario Movie Mini World Deluxe Princess Peach Castle playset. That is a mouthful. The description says it's the movie version of Princess Peach's castle with the playset inside. Opens to reveal training grounds, various play elements to recreate scenes, and it comes with a Mario and Princess Peach action figures.
Yeah, the training grounds little tidbit really stood out to me because immediately it gave me this image of a scene in the movie where Peach has to help Mario and Luigi train to get them ready to take on Bowser in like a final battle or something.
Yes, it actually kind of connects with a certain leak that'll be really interesting to talk about later down the line. Next up, we got proof of them remaking the 1993 film with the Mini World van playset. It does make me wonder how deep cut the references in this movie is going to be if they're going to bring back the freaking van.
Yeah, and one of the other leaks that we'll be talking about in a future video also has Mario and Luigi in a different place where maybe owning a van might be considered normal. I don't know if this is an intentional callback to the live-action movie. That's at least what it seems like to me. I do want to touch on the 4chan leaks for just a minute because the Amazon listings are using the title Super Mario Movie. Now, this could be a placeholder name, but in one of the 4chan threads that we came across, there was a little tidbit that said this exact title was what the actual movie was going to be using. It's better than just Mario, because that's just too simple, too plain, too boring. It appears as though Jakks Pacific is the company that's going to be making the Mario movie toys, which makes sense because they also produce the World of Nintendo line of action figures. If you go to a store like a Walmart or a Target or something, and you see a bunch of Nintendo figures up on the shelves, chances are they're Jakks Pacific figures, so it would make sense for Nintendo to work with them again to make the movie merchandise. Another Twitter user by the name of Nintendo Merch Central posted in a now deleted tweet that the toy line is going to include 5-inch figures of Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, and Toad. Obviously, Mario and Luigi are the stars of it, and Princess Peach, she's a major character. But I wasn't sure about what Toad's role was going to be like, especially just looking at all the 4chan threads, and everything about Toad is just kind of random and weird in all of them. So I get the feeling that if Toad is one of the figures that's going to be included in the line, then he must be a pretty significant character in the story. So I wonder if the movie is going to focus on the four of them as a team, or if Toad is going to join them later on at some point. Well, it seems like that's everything we have to talk about with the merch. Should we get on to the meat of the video?
Yes.
Okay, so there's another 4chan thread that we came across that lists random celebrities and other people that may or may not be voicing characters in this movie. And it hasn't been confirmed that any of these people are involved in the movie, so this is mostly just going to be speculation and just giving our thoughts on whether these actors and actresses are good choices. And we're also going to be comparing this thread to the other threads, just to see if any of these seem plausible or not. A lot of these add up. Some of them don't. Some are also just completely out of the blue. And if you want to take a look at these threads for yourself, we'll put links to them in the description for you to try and follow along. So this is what we got. This 4chan thread claims that Rashida Jones is going to be voicing Daisy, Bill Hader is going to be Yoshi, Danny McBride is going to be Wario, Griffin Newman is going to be Lakitu, Tom Kenny is going to be a Boo, Jim Parsons is going to be a Koopa Troopa, Jennifer Hale is going to be Pauline, and JoJo Siwa is going to be Toadette. Let's start with that one, because the idea is so cringeworthy that it's almost too perfect. I don't know what it is. Like, JoJo Siwa somehow seems like the worst possible choice, but also the best possible choice for Toadette.
I know that she's really popular with the kids. When it comes to acting, she mostly is just a guest star on multiple Nickelodeon sitcoms. I'll admit this, it's a pretty funny choice. Not a good choice, but a funny choice at least.
Before you Zoomers or whatever get too excited, 2 different 4chan threads talk about JoJo Siwa as Toadette, and both of them claim that she doesn't have that many lines in the movie. One doesn't specify how many, but they've indicated that it's not a whole lot, and the other one claims that she only has maybe 1 or 2 lines. So if anything, it seems more like a glorified cameo.
Which, I mean, hey, less JoJo Siwa, I guess.
I mean, I don't hate her. I also don't really know what she does, so I'm kind of indifferent, but good for her if she actually is going to be in this. Alright, the next one I want to talk about is Rashida Jones as Daisy. Now, I'm not super familiar with her work. I've seen her in a couple things, like she was Anne in Parks and Rec. She is a good actress. I noticed that she also has like this sort of quirky, no-nonsense, irreverent quality to her. So she doesn't inherently seem like a bad choice for Daisy. In a way, it seems fitting, at least to how I imagine the character being. Not completely, but just enough so that I could probably imagine her being good in the part.
Personally, I don't really know much about her. She's like the only person on the 4chan league that I don't really know that much about, but if she can do a convincing Daisy, I'm all for it.
From what I've read on each of the boards, there was one that claimed that Daisy was going to be like Peach's best friend and she was going to play some kind of part in the movie. And I read somewhere else that her name would at least be dropped a couple times, but she might not actually be in the movie. So this one's kind of up in the air, but there are 1 or 2 threads that mention Rashida Jones. So I would consider this somewhat plausible, maybe. If Rashida Jones is going to be Daisy in this, if she does end up being in the movie, then you know what? I'm not going to be against it. Alright, next let's talk about Bill Hader as Yoshi. Again, not necessarily a bad choice. I mean, maybe this is just me because I'm a big Bill Hader fan. I wouldn't have immediately thought of Bill Hader voicing Yoshi, but the more I think about it, in a way, it does kind of make sense, because obviously with a lot of comedic actors in this film, they're going for more of a comedic, possibly self-aware take on Mario. So if you want irreverent and self-aware, why wouldn't Bill Hader be in this?
I think it can honestly work. I kind of like Bill Hader too. It's gonna be really interesting to see.
Yeah, this one doesn't seem super plausible though, because when looking at the threads, there was one that claimed Yoshi might not be in it, and that they would be saving him and characters like Bowser Jr. for sequels or whatever, but other sources mentioned Yoshi would be in this. I would lean more towards it being plausible, because there were more threads specifically talking about Yoshi and Kamek's relationship in this film, but we're going to touch on that in a future video. So stay tuned for that. Alright, next let's talk about Danny McBride as Wario.
I know quite a bit of his work. He voiced Bomb in both of the Angry Birds movies, as well as the father character Rick from Mitchell's vs. the Machines.
Great movie, by the way. Go check it out.
Honestly, I can see it working, but I'm not sure if he necessarily has that nastiness and grittiness of Wario's voice. But that is really interesting to think about.
Danny McBride does have this booming, bombastic personality, and going with the irreverence, he is a good pick for a movie with this kind of tone and feel.
I just wonder what kind of role Wario will play in the film.
Yeah, because there's one thread that claimed that Wario wasn't in the movie, and then there was another thread that claimed that he might be in the movie, but then a Reddit user claimed that he is in a post-credit scene. So we have all these conflicting reports as to what Wario's role in the movie is, if he's going to be in it at all.
My guess is maybe that they might tease him in the first movie in some form.
Yeah, possibly.
Let's take a look at the next pick.
Alright, and that would be Griffin Newman as Lakitu. Now, this actually has some significant evidence to help push it more towards the plausible category, because Griffin Newman tweeted a picture of Lakitu. It's a piece of art from Mario and Luigi Paper Jam, and it had a caption that read, "Let's-a go." I'm referring to it in the past tense because the tweet has since been taken down. So, I think that's a pretty clear sign that he is going to be voicing a Lakitu in this movie.
Does make me question if he's just gonna voice a singular Lakitu or a species of Lakitus.
Yeah, when I think of Lakitu, I usually think of like the cameraman from Mario 64. I don't know if he's going to be voicing that Lakitu or if it's just going to be a minion character. And that kind of goes for the next two that we're going to talk about after this, because they are also generic enemies that don't have unique names. They're just listed by their species. So we have Tom Kenny as a Boo and Jim Parsons as a Koopa Troopa. One of the threads did mention that these three characters, Lakitu, Boo, and Koopa Troopa, would have speaking parts. And I think it's safe to assume that these characters would show up in this movie anyway, if anything, as Bowser's minions. With Tom Kenny, I think it could just be like an additional voice role. But with Jim Parsons, I feel like he's a little too prolific to voice just a generic enemy. Although I haven't really seen mention of him specifically in any of the other threads, so I'm not sure how likely this is.
And if Jim Parsons is gonna be Koopa Troopa, you know they're gonna make a Sheldon joke.
God, if they actually do name him Sheldon, well, I'm a connoisseur of bad puns, so I'm gonna appreciate it, but I'm still gonna be like, oh my god, they actually did that. I think his Koopa Troopa character is going to be a little more significant in the context of the film. If you've seen him in The Big Bang Theory, or if you've seen him in interviews, you'll know that he has sort of like a awkward charm to him. So I think he could be playing a character that happens to be a Koopa Troopa, but also has sort of these qualities to them, like maybe Cooper from Paper Mario or Koops from Thousand Year Door. Not those characters specifically, but probably a character similar to either of those. So far, the most likely of these actors is Griffin Newman, especially after that deleted tweet. But we're not quite done yet because there's still one more actor, or actress in this case, that we have to talk about, and it's Jennifer Hale as Pauline.
Alright, not really much of a big name, but she has done quite a lot of voice work in the past.
Oh yes.
She has done characters like Black Cat from the 90s Spider-Man animated series. She's also the current voice actress for Cinderella. It's actually not even the first time she worked with Nintendo, as she provided the voice of Samus Aran in the Metroid Prime trilogy. Honestly, I think she can do a pretty good job as Pauline, considering she can do a pretty calm and somewhat seductive performance really well.
Yeah, and she's played those kinds of characters before, but I'm not sure about Pauline's inclusion at all, because while this one thread mentions that Jennifer Hale is going to be voicing her, there's another thread that claims she has a quick cameo in the film, but doesn't have any lines. So there's two pretty major conflicting reports here that make me a little unsure as to whether she's actually going to be in this. But I wouldn't be surprised if it does end up being Jennifer Hale, because they seem to be bringing in a lot of prolific voice actors. Like, they announced Kevin Michael Richardson as the voice of Kamek, and he's not like a big movie star, but you've heard his voice in a lot of things. And as an obsessive voice acting fanatic, it was really cool for me to see his name be grouped in with all these big name stars like Chris Pratt and Jack Black and Keegan-Michael Key. If Pauline actually is in this, it wouldn't surprise me if it does end up being Jennifer Hale.
So that's about it with the voice cast?
Yeah, and I think from this list, the ones that seem the most plausible to me anyway are JoJo Siwa as Toadette, Griffin Newman as Lakitu, and probably Rashida Jones as Daisy, maybe. But how about you? Which ones seem most plausible to you?
The most plausible one is probably Jennifer Hale as Pauline, considering the rumors of this being an origin movie. Pauline is a legacy character in the franchise, and it would be kind of weird to not include her.
Yeah, I'm still a little iffy about Pauline, mostly because of the conflicting reports.
I do think Griffin Newman as Lakitu is pretty plausible, considering he actually made a tweet about that. And unfortunately, I agree. JoJo Siwa Toadette is probably happening.
To me, none of the actors that were listed are bad choices. A lot of them might not be great, but they're not terrible either. You can see why they would have been chosen for the parts if any of these claims are true.
If this leak is true, aside from a certain Toad, I think that the voice cast is pretty solid.
Yeah, I think so too. I just hope that this movie doesn't get too crowded with a lot of characters, because I kind of want them to take the route of the first Sonic movie, not like playing it too safe, but bringing in just enough characters so that hardcore fans like us will be satisfied and general audiences won't feel too overwhelmed with the wackiness that might ensue.
It can be too much for the audience for like the first film, so it would probably be best to like slowly introduce these characters along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, there you go. So now let's open the floor to you guys. What do you think of these possible casting choices? Do you think any of these are perfect choices, just good, or are these completely terrible choices? If you think the latter, what actors would you like to see play these characters? Would you rather have Kate Higgins come back to reprise her role of Pauline? Would you rather see Danny DeVito instead of Danny McBride as Wario? Do you want, I don't know, Christopher Walken as Yoshi or something? But let us know in the comments, and if you have any other Mario movie related news that you'd like to share to help support this show, then you can post it in the Mario Movie channel, in my Discord server. In the future, we're also going to be doing a video dissecting Gabe's conversation with somebody who attended a Mario Movie test screening. If you are interested in seeing any of those and you're not subscribed to this channel yet, then make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you can be notified when those videos come out. And until next time, be good, behave, be safe, and we'll see you later. Bye bye!